Hey everybody, I'm JJ Johnson. You're watching Reality Survival. So today what I have for you is a video that I probably should have done before I did another series of videos. This video is going to be called, what new preppers should do before or, in order to start prepping. What new preppers should do to start prepping. Prepping is not just about buying things. I recently did a series of videos talking about the first 5 things that preppers should buy right now, or the second 5 things, third 5 things, and so on. And so I wanted to do this video to talk about what you can do as a new prepper before you ever even start buying anything. Okay, and this is going to be about helping to educate you, helping to establish your mindset, and helping you to understand what you should do and how you should develop your own plan, because it's important to have a plan before you just start buying stuff willy-nilly, right? I mean, you do need to know what your circumstance is, what your situation is, and what is likely to happen in your area. So with that, I think I've got like 16 points here that I wanted to talk about. I've just made a few notes down here on things that I wanted to cover. And, like I said, these are all things to do right up in the front, right in the very beginning, when you decide as a family that you want to get into disaster preparedness or to become the dreaded prepper. And I guess before I start here, I should talk about this a little bit. It is important to be, to have your family all on board with this. Have some discussions, try to get your spouses, involved in this, because doing it on your own can make it a lot more difficult and a lot more contentious. So if you do this as a unified group, that's going to be the best way to move forward with this. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and get going. And as always, everybody's situation is very highly dependent. So please, take everything that I'm saying with a grain of salt and apply it as it's intended to your situation. You may have to adjust this and do things slightly different for your situation because they may be different from other people. So the first thing is do some research and find out what sort of real emergencies happen in your region. Are there earthquakes in your region, hurricanes, tornadoes, ice storms, forest fires? Look up some of these statistics and stuff like that, and find out what actually happens in your area historically, and because those are the things that you should, in my opinion, start preparing for first. And the reason is because those things are high probability incidences. We know that they happen on a regular basis. Okay, coronal mass ejections. The last time a big one happened that we know of that it hit Earth anyway was like 1859 or something. So it's like 100 years ago. But look at those high probability things, that affect people on a regular basis. Do some research on that and understand what those are for your area. The next thing is do a little bit more research and identify crime trends in your area. Being affected by crime, whether it be robbery or mugging or, whatever the case may be, maybe it's stolen cars, all that kind of stuff. That can all affect your plan and how you develop your plan and everything like that. So you need to know that base set of information early on. Additionally, in this same point, study the demographics of your neighborhood. Make it a point to physically, face-to-face, know your neighbors. Develop a relationship with your neighbors. This is something that's kind of lost on some of the new generation, the millennials and all that kind of stuff. But it's something that is very, very important to do. It's not just important so that you know who is supposed to be in your neighborhood and who's not supposed to be in your neighborhood. That's a key part of it. But the other thing it does for you is when you develop personal relationships with the people that live around you, you're expanding your security network. Okay? So know those people that live around you. When they feel like they have a connection for you, they're going to help watch out for you. You help watch out for them. You guys can begin to come together as a group more easily. So make those connections early on. And bring them with you in your journey in becoming proficient at disaster preparedness. Okay, number 3, conduct an audit of your personal finances and establish what your discretionary income is each month. All right, take a look at all your bills, what you've got coming in, what you've got going out, map all that out for what it is every month. Then, number 4 is establish how much of your discretionary income should be used for prepping, how much of it should be used for paying debt, how much of it should be used for saving, whatever the case may be. I highly recommend Dave Ramsey's 7-step plan for financial freedom if you've got unwanted debt. If you're in a high debt situation like many people are, then I think Dave Ramsey's plan is a great plan. You can, follow it exactly and get through the process and then start prepping if you want, or you can modify it slightly and be working on chipping away the debt while you're taking a little bit and kind of adding that into your budget for doing preparedness. It really just depends on your situation and what you want to do, where you feel the emphasis needs to be. Number 5, conduct a physical fitness assessment. How capable and fit are you and your family? And because that is going to affect what type of plan you design for you and your family and how you prepare, what you buy, all those kinds of things. You don't, contrary to a lot of people on YouTube and all that kind of stuff, you don't have to be a super fit Rambo warrior and all that kind of stuff, but you do need to be functionally fit and able to, if part of your plan is going to be, bugging out of the house at a certain point, then you need to be able to physically carry the pack and walk and all that kind of stuff. If you can't, because of disability or because of whatever the case may be, then you're going to have to modify your plan to address that kind of thing, as best that you can, So and I guess the point of that is that you may be able to, if you have a certain physical disability or whatever, you may be able to save money by not purchasing those items that are going to be related to bugging out or walking or whatever. You may be able to just put that more into food and water and those kind of things where you're going to stay, or hardening your home if you're going to stay in your home, or something like that. So basically just, you just need to do a realistic fitness assessment, and then make a determination, also when you do that, should you modify your physical fitness training? Should you do something a little bit differently because you want to get to a certain level and because your situation might require that, maybe you need to be more physically fit or whatever the case may be. Obviously, it doesn't hurt to be a little bit more fit. That is clear. So, okay, the next thing here is number 6. Create a hard copy emergency binder or folder. We've all lived in the digital age, and it's real easy to keep everything on digital media and all that kind of stuff, but a hard copy folder is a great thing to have. One of the first things that you want to do in this is something that everybody used to do but doesn't do anymore. Write down all the names and phone numbers and addresses of all your friends, your families, your coworkers, your relatives, all that kind of stuff inside that book. Basically what we used to call an address book. But you also want it to be capable of holding some additional information that we'll talk about here in a minute. Okay, number 7, determining who in your circle of family and friends would be willing and able to host you and your family during an emergency situation. Make sure to highlight their names, names, phone numbers, and addresses in your emergency folder, or have them on a separate page, as potential hosts. The vast majority of disaster situations that we see in our country are regionalized disasters. Most of those regionalized disasters take place in a 100-mile area or less. Okay, so if you have people that live maybe outside of those areas or around that area, a little further, a little closer, whatever the case may be, you want to talk with them and try to develop a plan with them. Hey, if something happens at your place, you guys come to us. If something happens at our place, we'll go to you, that kind of thing. That way it's kind of done ahead of time, and you can basically enact that plan on a lot shorter notice, and it's not coming as a surprise to people. The other thing you can consider on people that you trust, only people that you trust, you may be able to pre-position some supplies at their locations depending on where they are and all that kind of thing. That's a situationally dependent thing that you'd have to make an assessment on. Is, would the stuff be secure there? Can they keep it secure? Do they live in a city or an urban area or whatever the case may be? Okay, number 8. Identify multiple hotels in every cardinal direction from your house that are at least 100 miles or 2 hours drive from your home. Put their address, phone numbers, and rates and all that kind of stuff in your emergency folder. And the reason you want to do that is, what if the people that you know are on vacation, and all that kind of thing. This is just a backup to your backup place to stay. If an emergency, like let's say, for example, with Katrina, if you had, as soon as you heard about Katrina coming and you lived in that area, if you had called a hotel that was, say 100 miles inland or whatever the case may be, out of the disaster zone basically, and called them and booked that hotel, for a couple of weeks, paid for it with credit card or whatever over the phone, and then proceeded to drive there immediately before all the evacuation and everything starts, then you've just saved yourself a whole bunch of hassle or whatever. So having some information like that written down, hard copy, is a good idea. And the reason I say hard copy is because the power can go out. You can lose things because of hard drive failures and all that kind of stuff. So just having it written down is a good idea. And it doesn't wouldn't take long to do this either. Number 9, identify multiple campgrounds, state or national parks that could be used as possible places to stay in an emergency as a last resort. So let's say all the hotels were all booked by the time you called, your family members and everybody are unreachable, whatever the case may be. Holy crap, we're going to have to, live in a tent for a little bit. Where are those places in relation to, different cardinal directions from your location? Again, you just want to have these things mapped out. You want to know where they're at. You want to know how to get there, if there's any cost associated with them, how long you can stay. Just do a little bit of research in that regard. The last thing you can do, and this one is kind of a questionable thing that you could do. It's technically probably illegal. So you might not want to take my advice on this, and I'm not necessarily telling you to do it. But if you could identify any large suitable pieces of private land, say, large forested or wooded areas or whatever, they're owned by large corporations such as investment firms, banks, mining or construction companies, that could also be a last resort for you as well. A lot of people will probably go to national parks, and state parks and all that kind of stuff, if that is the situation. But not a lot of people will probably go to private land like that. And if it's land that's owned by a company, then you're probably not as likely to run into anybody or have anyone run you off the land. That's going to take some research on your part, and also is an ethical decision that you would have to make as to whether or not you want to do that and be technically trespassing, because you do open yourself up to a risk of arrest or whatever the case may be. So anyway, just an idea. Just thought I'd throw it out there. Number 10, map out multiple routes out of town on a hard copy, like a gazetteer maps. I think those work really well. And I would focus not so much on the primary routes, because everybody pretty much knows, what interstates are going to go in and out. Focus on the secondary and tertiary roadways. I think for most of us, if we write on the maps and we write, we're not in a combat situation, we don't have intelligence that we're hiding and all that kind of stuff. So OPSEC is probably not a big deal here. You could probably just mark it out on the map, your different routes to get out of town in all the different directions. However, you may want to also consider using tracing paper overlays, if you want to. And that's just another way to keep higher OPSEC if you want. You keep the tracing paper stored, separately in your emergency folder, and then the gazetteer just wouldn't have any marks on it or whatever. Or just marks on the beginning and end locations, or whatever you wanted for what degree of OPSEC you wanted to apply. Okay, number 11, study the geography around your residence. You should know where all of the fresh water sources, streams, lakes, rivers, ponds, railroad tracks, high tension power lines, large stands of woods, parks, etc. Where are all those things in your area? You know, if you're in an extended grid down situation where you end up staying in your home for a long time, you might need to get water. You may need to set out some traps. I just recently did a video talking about that, to help with your protein and food gathering and all that kind of stuff. Who knows what the situation is, but you need to know what is around your situation, or what is around your area physically where your residence is. Even in cities, even if you say, well, I live in an urban area, you still need to know these things, okay? Because there are probably, drainages and different areas and stuff like that where there's not development and all that kind of stuff. And I've seen this, in dealing with homeless people who live in tents and all that kind of stuff, in urban areas. So there are areas there, you just have to actually look for them. Okay, the next one, number 12. War game multiple emergency scenarios. Write these out on hard copy action plans for your family members to do in case you're not home in an emergency. So, for example, what should they do if there's a tornado? What should they do if there's a power outage? What should they do if a hurricane's going to land? Whatever the case may be. And you essentially just write these out on different cards and you put them in your emergency folder. And this is also going to help you prioritize the things that you need to get for your preps, right? So if you know that you want to put window coverings up or put hurricane shutters up or whatever the case may be in a hurricane, then you need to have those supplies available to make that checklist happen. So it's also a good thing when you're under a high stress situation, if you're dehydrated, if injury, anything like that, if you've got a hard copy of something to refer to, then that is going to help you be more efficient in getting things done. One example of where I heard this being talked about was in, it wasn't, man, I can't remember what book it was. I'm going to have to look that up and let you guys know. I'll throw that in a link down here, which book it was, but it was one about a guy getting home from his office in Virginia. Can't think of the name of it right now. Anyway, it was a good book. But anyhow, so war game these scenarios out, write that stuff down, and put it into your emergency binder. Number 13 is establish a family communication plan that covers how to get in touch with each other when cell phones don't work. You want to have in here rally points, meeting schedules, primary times, alternate times, all that kind of stuff. I've done a blog post on this on my website, realitysurvival.com. You guys can check that out. Just go down to the right sidebar to the search area and type in family communication, and it should pop up there. And I also kind of provide a little template for a business-sized card that you can, modify for your own needs, and each family member can carry it so that they can remember what the emergency plan is. And just keep the master copy in your emergency folder. So number 14 is conduct an assessment of your family's skills and their skill level in certain areas. These are just some random things that I wrote down. Essentially, you just want to kind of give yourself a realistic idea of what different family members can and cannot do. Who can operate a firearm? Who's got tactical and security experience? Who can cook? Who can hunt and trap? Who can garden? Who can carry a backpack? And how much weight can they carry for multiple miles? Who can start a fire? Who knows first aid? Who knows how to find and treat drinking water? Who's good at carpentry? Who knows how to use radio and communications? Who knows how to build shelter? Who can sew clothes? Who can repair items? And what special skills do family members have? Now, all of these things, if you're new to prepping, this might also be a good roadmap to you for things that you need to start studying. Maybe if nobody's really good at building shelter and fire and all that kind of stuff, then maybe you need to start learning those things. Maybe, whatever. It all just depends on how it is that you develop your plan. Okay, so number 15 is discuss and write down your core values. Okay, I talked about this briefly in another video that I think aired a little while back, and knowing and sticking to your core values is a really, really important thing. And I'll refer to this in a movie, The Road. If you guys have ever seen The Road, it was pretty bleak and kind of a depressing movie, but a very interesting point that came out in that movie was the kid, he was talking about lighting, keeping the fire lit within us, are we the good guys and all that. And knowing that you're the good guy, knowing that you are carrying the fire, so to speak, is something that is very critical to maintaining and holding on to hope. And the two are tied directly together. Knowing your principles and your values are directly tied to your ability to maintain hope in very dire situations. So writing those things down and making sure that all the family members know, we will not steal from people, we do not murder people unless they're trying to murder us, we do not, whatever the case may be for your situation, then you should know that. You should try to articulate those. It seems a little bit corny and a bit cheesy or whatever, but I'm telling you, in a real hard long-term situation, those things are going to be important. Number 16 is finally you've gotten to the point where if you take care of all this stuff and you do all this stuff, you've probably created a mindset. You've got some ideas. You're starting to develop your plan. You've done some research and all that kind of stuff. Now you can get to the point where you're ready to start purchasing the gear that you need and or the training that you need to be able to affect your plan. Okay, it's not just all about gear. It is also about training and training yourself and learning things. It's one of the reasons that I started my YouTube channel and my website, is because I want to help to teach people about wilderness survival, disaster preparedness, urban survival, bushcraft, all that kind of thing. All of these things all kind of tie in together in some way or shape. In helping people to be able to perform in critical disaster situations. And so obviously, you have the resource of my website. There's many other websites out there and many other YouTube channels that also do this stuff as well. So training is important. Physical hands-on practice is also important. I can show you how to start fires and build shelters and all that kind of stuff all day long on YouTube, but until you get out there and try it, until you try it in the environment that you'll be doing it in the weather conditions and all the worst weather conditions possible and all that kind of stuff, you're not going to know how to do it. So you have to get out and practice. Part of being a prepper and being prepared is actually doing this stuff, getting into the woods, if that's what your plan calls for, doing reconnaissance in your neighborhood, looking around, finding resources, whatever the case may be is for your situation. You have to actively be willing to get out and get involved. It's not just buying gear. I talk a lot about buying gear on my website and do a lot of different gear reviews and all that kind of stuff, because gear is an important aspect of it, but it's only one aspect. Somebody who has both knowledge and the proper gear, you're going to be leaps and bounds ahead of anybody else. If somebody who only has knowledge and doesn't have gear, or only has gear and has no knowledge, then they're falling by the wayside in different areas. So if you've got both, then you're going to be more well balanced and ready to handle pretty much any situation. Anyway, guys, I hope that has been useful. Just took a look at basically 16 things that new preppers can do right now to start into their preparedness journey. If you guys got any questions on any of these or why I listed any of these things on here, please put them in the comments below. If you can think of any additional steps that people should do at the very beginning of their prepping journey, please put those in the comments below and add to the conversation. I definitely appreciate that. If you like videos like this, go ahead and click the subscribe button. I think it's down here. Man, I always forget. And if you're already subscribed, then go ahead and click on the bell button as well. That'll give you an email notification of each time we upload. And as always, guys, I definitely appreciate it when you click the thumbs up button, when you share it with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. And don't forget to live the 6 Ps. Proper prior preparation prevents poor performance. Stay safe, guys.